The Orlando Magic were one of the busiest teams at this year's NBA trade deadline, and I expect much of the same at the 2021 NBA draft, as they have 3 picks in the top 33, along with a plethora of young talent that they are going to start adding pieces around, and they could start making some moves this offseason to start supplementing this talent, or they could just sit tight and just evaluate everyone this year and start to decide who they want to really buy into and pay moving forward, because outside of Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz, no one on this team has gotten their payday yet. And so the next couple of years for Orlando is really going to be a wait and see and figure out what they have and who they want to commit to. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, is what young talent do they have in the team, what options lie ahead of them for this offseason, and what does their future look like moving forward into next season. We're going to be talking about some of the core young players that they have on this team, like Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, so on and so forth. The 7 U24 players on this team are their core moving forward. And we're going to be talking about some of the potential trades they could make as well with some of the veterans on the team. With that being said, if you guys like more NBA content like this, consider subscribing and leave a like if you do enjoy the video to let me know that you enjoy content like this. And let me a comment down below in the comment section what you think about this Orlando team moving forward, what type of draft picks they can make, trades they can make, and who are the key pieces you would build this team around moving forward. And so with that being said, let's just start off. They have the 5th, 8th, and 33rd overall picks in this year's draft. I'm not going to get into who they could potentially draft with those selections. You can look up a mock draft as good as I can. I don't know enough about these guys in college to have enough of an opinion and discussion about it. But no doubt, 2 picks within the top 8 is going to give them 2 top end talents. But they also had the possibility, if they want to move into the top 4 of this draft. I don't know if that's necessarily something they're going to look to do, but they already have, as I mentioned, 7 under 24 players on this team. They already have a lot of young talent. So adding more, if it's not good, isn't necessarily of interest to this team. They don't need volume or depth of youth. They need high-end quality at this point. And so I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Orlando are interested in trading up, whether that's a package of the 5 and the 33, the 8 and the 33, the 5 and the 8, although I think that would be a very generous package unless they're getting up to the 1st overall pick. Or you could see a combination of a 5th or the 8th overall pick along with one of the young players on the roster. Something like that is very possible. Whether that they get the opportunity to do that and one of the top 4 teams are willing to move back is another scenario. But I definitely would not be shocked to see Orlando trying to move up a bit higher into this draft with the combination of picks and depth of young talent they have. Nonetheless, they are going to add a couple of good young players to this team one way or another this summer via the draft, and they have options to move up or just draft at 5 and 8 and get 2 top 8 picks. Presumably what will be 2 very good players if they can draft right. And that's the draft portion of it. I want to talk quickly about some of the trades they could potentially make this summer. So obviously this team is quite young, and some of the veterans are going to be leaving. Of course, Otto Porter Jr., who they acquired in the Nikola Vucevic trade, is an expiring contract. He is going to be a free agent this summer, as well as James Ennis will be as well. And as much as he did have some good moments for them last season, at age 30, I don't think they're going to bring him back, especially with the return of Jonathan Isaac from injury. And so this is what we're looking at as far as trade pieces for Orlando. Gary Harris, Terrence Ross. Those are the 2 pieces. Gary Harris, they might try and keep. He is only 26, so maybe they try and keep him and make him into something. But given the depth they have at the guard position as far as their young talent, which we're going to be talking about in a bit, they already have Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, and RJ Hampton. I don't think they're going to be overly excited to try and keep another guy. Gary Harris is already paid in $20 million next year, and as an expiring contract next year, he's definitely someone that could be used in a contract, or in a contract. His contract could definitely be used in trade talks moving in towards next year's deadline as an expiring to absorb some salary. Maybe they absorb some salary and get a pick back on an expiring. Something along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get moved. As well as Terrence Ross, who I expected to get dealt at the deadline last year, but he was about the only guy from Orlando from a high-end veteran standpoint who didn't get dealt. Of course, Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic did. But I would expect Terrence Ross does probably get dealt this year. He's a very good scorer, 3-point shooter, can create his own shot, attack the basket, very athletic. A good veteran now at age 30. and can definitely provide some very good minutes as a scoring wing off the bench for some contending team. And so with that being said, that's definitely some trades I would see them potentially making moving forward. But I also wouldn't rule out some trades with some of the young guys in the next year or two as they start to decide who they want to pay and who they don't want to pay. And so eventually they're going to have to move some pieces, because otherwise they're just not going to be able to afford all their young talent. Because if they draft someone at 5, 8, and the 33rd overall pick this year, they're going to enter the season with 10 players under the age of 24, all of which are decent pieces, assuming that they draft well. And that's just too many. They can't pay that many. So they're going to have to evaluate talent over the next few years and figure out what they want to do. But we're going to first talk about the two guys that they already have locked in on, the two guys they've decided they want as part of their future, at least more evidently than any of the others, and that is Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac, who both have been extended to contracts, and of course, both were out for the majority or most of the season, with Markelle Fultz picking up an injury early on, and Jonathan Isaac, of course, still being out from his injury in the bubble. But both are expected to be back for the start of the next season. And I think that's definitely going to be a big help to Orlando, and we're actually going to be able to get an evaluation of what this Orlando team actually looks like. They're going to have a backcourt rotation of Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton, and Cole Anthony. They'll have Jonathan Isaac's defense back on the wing. His offensive improvements were coming through thick and fast before his injury. Early on in his career, he was very much just a defensive guy, but looks like someone who had near all defensive, all NBA teams and near defensive player of the year capabilities. But his three-point shooting really started to improve in his last year, as well as some of his ability to attack the rim, his ball handling, and a bit of a mid-range game as well. Not that he was becoming an elite scorer by any stretch, but it was definitely drastically improving. And so hopefully we can see him come back healthy, gain his pace, and try to get back to that level as well. And same with Markelle Fultz. After all the struggles and trials and tribulations he had in Philadelphia, he was finally starting to show some promise in Orlando as well, starting to become a better creator. But the biggest thing was just feeling confident in his shot. It's looked more natural. He's felt more confident, which is the biggest thing. And so hopefully we can see more of that from Markelle Fultz as he comes back from injury. But there are many more pieces that are still valuable and important to Orlando as they continue to decide what they want to do moving forward. First off, we're going to start at the center position. They have Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. They both only have 1 year left on their deal. So these guys this year are probably playing for their job on Orlando. Now, if these guys don't end up staying on Orlando, they'll be in the league. They're both NBA caliber players. Mo Bamba got some actual playing time towards the back end of the year once Nikola Vucevic was traded. The first actual playing time he's gotten since he joined the NBA. And he had some good games. He definitely had some good games. He had some good rim protection. He had some good three-point shooting ability. He had some very good performances while actually getting consistent 15, 20-plus minutes a game. And so he's definitely going to challenge Wendell Carter Jr., who, of course, was acquired in the Nikola Vucevic trade for being that future starting center of the Orlando Magic. But Orlando have some good options here that they can definitely work from. And then they also have Cole Anthony, Chuma Okeke, and RJ Hampton as well, who are 21, 22, and 20 respectively. This roster is just full of young talent. They don't necessarily have that top-end guy yet. I think Fultz can be a good complementary piece. I think Isaac can be a really good 3-and-D type guy, specifically in the defensive end. I think RJ Hampton has some potential. I think Cole Anthony has some potential. But I don't see any all-stars on this roster. So I'm sure that's what they'll be hoping to do via trade soon, or if not, hopefully via one of those picks early on in the first round this year. But that's really all that Orlando is missing. They have all the complementary pieces. They have the depth of talent. They have so much young assets on this team, which is going to be able to help them in trade packages moving forward. They have an extra pick from Chicago in the 2023 draft that they also acquired from the Vucevic trade, as well as, I believe, 2025 first and one other first from Denver. So they have a lot of first-round picks, a lot of young assets. They're going to be able to make some trades to try and acquire a star moving forward, if that is something that they want to do, and I think that's something they're going to have to do. But I think Orlando have put themselves in a really good spot with a lot of positive assets, and that's all you can really do, and Orlando have done a great job of that. So, generally speaking, I think the future is fairly bright for Orlando. I think it was a smart reset, and I think it allows them to have a ceiling that's much higher than the mediocrity they were in with the current construction of the roster before their trades at the trade deadline. The next year or two, as I mentioned, is definitely going to be a process of evaluating what players that are currently on the roster they want to retain and pay and extend, and which ones they want to try and trade away or let walk as restricted free agents, and how they trade these players, what they get back from them. or they can package them up for, and potentially get a quality player back for, or a star back for, is going to be very important for the future of this team. But the next couple of years are evaluating, seeing who they want to pay. That's really the future of Orlando, but I really like where they're at. Let me know what you guys think about this current Orlando roster and where you could see them a couple of years down the road. It really just depends on if they get a star. If they don't add a star to this team, I think they're stuck in mediocrity again. If they add a star to this team via trade, then I think they can be a middle of the conference, Eastern Conference team that can be fighting for a 4 or 5 seed. But it really just depends on if they can acquire that star. It's always going to be the harder things for the smaller markets, and that's going to be what proves to be the difficulty for Orlando again. But I like where they're at, and hope you guys did enjoy the video. Feel free to leave a like if you did, and subscribe if you want more of my thoughts on each team's future and off-season plans, potential draft, their draft picks, and potential trades they could be making. And free agency for teams that are relevant for Orlando, I just don't think it's that relevant, so I did not discuss it, but I will be doing such a video for every team in the NBA. That being said, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.